Hello there and welcome to our coverage of the World Economic Forum, which is underway right here in Davos. I'm Marcus Carlson. This event brings together more than 2,500 business leaders, politicians and other officials from around the world. And today I'm speaking to two participants here who argue that the private sector must try harder to become a force for social and environmental good. Arianna Huffington is the founder of the news portal The Huffington Post. Thank you for hosting us here in your Huffington Post cafe in Davos. And Kathy Calvin, she's my other guest. She's the president and chief executive officer of the UN Foundation, which basically works as a link, I believe, between the private sector and the United Nations. Correct. I hope I got that right.
Exactly.
Thank you to both of you for speaking to France 24 today. Let me first ask you about an initiative called the BTeam, which it's the first time that you're coming to Davos with the BTeam this year. And this initiative basically argues that, as I said before, business should take on a larger social role. Tell us, Arianna, what is the BTeam?
Well, the BTeam, the B part of it stands for Plan B, on the grounds that Plan A, the way we have been running business, with the emphasis on short-term growth, on quarterly earnings, ignoring, the impact on the planet and on people, is not working. It's not working for individuals, it's not working really for corporations, and it's not working for the planet. So there is a Plan B, which is to make sure that in every business decision, we include not just profits, but people and planet. And that changes the whole framework in which decisions are made. And we believe by bringing together business leaders, like, of course, Richard Branson, who was the leader of the BTeam, who was the founder and had the original idea, and Paul Polman, the CEO of Unilever, and younger ones, and established ones, we are able to change the culture and the atmosphere in which business works. And it's really part of what's already happening. Mm-hmm. We just hope that we can accelerate a movement towards making this way of approaching business more mainstream.
Kathy, tell us practically how a business can become more socially responsible. What's the recipe, so to speak?
Well, I think you said in the beginning, the problem solving requires all three sectors. So we know that the governments don't have adequate resources or ability to solve all the problems. The nonprofit sector can't do it either. So we see that this is an opportunity for the business sector to play an equal role. And increasingly, businesses are seeing that that's good for business as well. They're trying to create markets. They're trying to close gaps in equality. So what can they do? They can look at their own practices in their companies first to make sure that they're respecting the dignity of all their employees, and then look further into their value chains and supply chains, and then look into the markets where they're building. They can evaluate how they're using the dwindling resources of our planet so that we can ensure there's room for all of us to grow in the future. And then they can share their learnings with each other. And as Arianna said, this is a movement. This isn't just about a few people who've said we'll step into it. So we're all taking a journey of learning how to be more respectful of people and planet, as well as making a profit for our shareholders and our employees.
But when business leaders say that they're paying greater attention to these type of things, are they serious? I mean, a lot of cynics, they say, hang on a minute, that's just a good marketing spiel.
Well, I think we're past the era of corporate social responsibility where it was easier to pay lip service to now companies saying this is part of our core business. We believe this is the way we will move forward profitably and have a sustainable business. So I think what we're seeing is a shift from the rhetoric to now action, but it always has to start with rhetoric. People have to get their heads into it before they know what actions to take.
Arianna, you've been here in Davos a number of years. What's your sense? Is the conversation changing here is it turning more towards issues like inequality and the growing gap between rich and poor?
Well, we saw that already this year, with Christine Lagarde speaking about it, the Pope's message focusing on the income gap. And also, we see in Davos a much more growing emphasis on well-being, sustainability, both at the planetary level, but also at the personal level. With so many individuals in leadership positions, in business, in politics, in media, suffering from burnout and stress, and as a result, making very short-term and decisions that are going to have very destructive results. So we see that there is an enormous amount of sessions going on this theme. I'm moderating a session called Health is Wealth, making the connections between the two. And in a way, the BTeam is a part of this movement. And our goal is to aggregate the best initiatives and help accelerate them.
I was reading the BTeam's declaration online, and I was a bit surprised when I saw this phrase. You say that many governments are unwilling or unable to act. Should business step in where governments are failing?
Well, what we're seeing right now, in fact, today, this morning, Edelman released its trust barometer. And the trust for governments is at an incredibly low point. Business is a little better, so business has actually an opportunity to step up into that vacuum left by governments around the world, which are behaving in increasingly dysfunctional ways.
You know, take climate for an example. It's very difficult for governments to come together and make commitments, but we hope they will in the next couple of years to ensure the climate of the planet is stable. But businesses are acting right now. They're taking steps to reduce their energy consumption. They're using more renewables. They're taking action, and that's how we're going to get there. So it's got to be a partnership where actions take place that let governments set policies.
And the media have a responsibility here. You know, at the Huffington Post, we see our responsibility as collecting these stories of what is working in business, what is working in terms of nonprofits also in this area. And that helps others be inspired and take action because they see hope. They see that something is happening. So that's our responsibility as well.
Do you think, though, that as the crisis and the Eurozone debt crisis, for instance, seems to be receding, do you think that the urgency, the sense of urgency to think about these issues, do you think that's dissipating somewhat?
Well, I actually think that the immediate currency financial crisis may be receding, but the economic crisis is not receding. Youth unemployment around Europe is at dangerously high levels. And that means we are at risk of losing an entire generation. So I think the urgency is greater than ever because we don't have really a plan for bringing enough jobs to employ all these young people. That's why now businesses, Paul Polman was saying at our meeting, at our BTeam meeting this morning, how he's part of the business consortium in the UK that's kind of committing to hiring more young people to stop, you know, the destructive impact that youth unemployment is having.
But let's say that a chief executive is under pressure from shareholders to come up with the goods, basically to increase profits. Do you think that chief executive is likely to take the high road? A lot of people say he or she is not likely to take the high road. They're not going to make the right options for society. They're going to make the right choices for their businesses.
But that's an old-fashioned thought that it's a trade-off. That if you take the high road and you do things that are good for your people and you think about the scarce resources of our planet, your profits will suffer. And in fact, we're seeing that companies that behave well toward their people and are thinking about the planet are actually doing very well on their profits. So the idea has to be challenged in the first place, and then we need to point to the companies that are actually showing it's possible.
What do you say about that?
It's very interesting. I completely agree with Kathy. Let me give you one example. Howard Schultz, when Starbucks was facing challenging times, its CEO, Howard Schultz, was asked, in fact, urged by shareholders to cut healthcare benefits. And he said no, he absolutely cannot do. If they're not happy, they can sell their shares, because he felt this was an essential part of the culture of Starbucks, of the employees seeing themselves as partners, seeing themselves as members of the Starbucks family, and he felt this was important for the long-term profitability of Starbucks. He held firm, Starbucks turned around and is doing better than ever. And there are countless examples like that that show that, as Kathy said, there is no trade-off. That's a very, very obsolete way of looking at what matters in business.
How will you proceed now, the BTeam, in order to put the spotlight on these issues? What's your plan, so to speak?
You want to go?
Sure. So we have picked a few specific initiatives. One of them is around dignity of work. Another is around changing the incentives for business so that there are more incentives for long-term decision-making rather than short-term decision-making based on quarterly earnings. The third one that I'm actually heading is the one that focuses on the well-being of employees, because we believe that this will be not just good for employees, but very good for the bottom line, reducing healthcare costs, increasing productivity and retention. So these are three of our major initiatives. And just to repeat, our goal is to aggregate the best that's already happening rather than create one more institution, and then help accelerate the efforts that are already underway.
And
is that your reading as well?
Yeah, absolutely, and we need the voice of business. So there's a lot of debate going on at the United Nations right now on the development framework for the next 15 years. It's going to be called the Sustainable Development Goals, and business has to be at the center of it. So there's a huge role for business to play right now in thinking about what it wants to do, how it can best be called to the table, and how it can best engage all of its citizens and consumers and customers.
All right, our time is up, unfortunately. It was a pleasure to speak to you both, Kathy Calvin and Ariane Huffington. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this edition from Davos and from the World Economic Forum. Stay with us here at France 24. We have more news coming your way.